Katie.
And I'm Jennifer.
And we're the O'Neill sisters.
And we're going to show you how to make a Shambala bracelet.
A Shambala bracelet is kind of like a worry bead bracelet. It has nice big beads and they're held together with macrame knots.
We're going to show you all the materials you need, including what kind of cord to use, what kind of beads to use, and we're going to show you how to set up a loom using a clipboard.
And we're going to use the loom to tie macrame knots. We'll show you how to do those knots between each of the beads, and then we'll show you how to put on a button clasp as your closure.
Let's get started.
For materials, you'll need about 12 to 14 beads, depending on the size of the beads. And we have faceted crystal beads. These are round. There's kind of 6 of a clear with an AB finish. That's an Aurora Borealis finish. And then we have 6 that are more like a champagne color. We're going to alternate those colors. And then we have a button for our closure. This is a vintage Victorian button. The important thing is that your opening on the back, this is shank, make sure your opening fits on your cording. And the cording we're using here is kind of a cotton or hemp twine. You could use leather, you could use velvet. You just want to make sure that it's small enough that it'll fit through your beads and your button, but also that it's not too soft. Satin cording is too slippery, it won't grab itself. You won't make good knots with that. We also have scissors and a tape measure.
To make the bracelet, we're going to create a kind of loom using a clipboard. We've covered the clipboard with a piece of paper. That's just so you can see what we're doing. We're going to use 2 little pieces of felt. They're just squares of craft felt. We'll show you what those are for later. And we've got 2 binder clips.
To get started making the Shambala bracelet, we need to cut the cord to the right lengths.
So we're going to have 2 different pieces of cord. One piece of cord we figured out we would like it to be 40 inches long. So we've measured this and we've already cut it here, but you can see it's 20 inches plus 20 inches. So it's a little bit longer than 40,
to have a little extra.
It's good to have a little extra. So that's one of our cords. And our center cord is going to be 20 inches. So you're cutting 2 cords, one that's 20 inches and one that's 40 inches.
Exactly. Let me move that out of your way.
Oh, great. And now we're going to make our little end knot. So to do that, we're going to take the longer cord, fold it in half, and I'm going to do that just by making sure I line up my ends.
Okay.
So that's folded in half. There's my little loop. I'm going to take the shorter cord and sort of nestle the end of it in my loop. See that there?
This will be the loop that'll be at the end of your bracelet that'll go around your button closure.
Exactly. And so I'm going to make a little knot right here at the end. Just a simple overhand knot. And I want to make sure that this loop that we're creating for our closure fits over the button. So I'm not going to do it super tight yet.
This is important. You know, if you make it too small, it won't fit your button. If you make it too big, your button will fall right out.
Exactly. This is what's holding your bracelet on. So this loop that I've made, I can see is actually slightly too big.
Tiny bit.
So that's why I didn't tighten it yet. I'm going to go ahead and pull the ends down like that.
There you go.
Make it tighter. Ignore that little center piece there.
If that little end piece is sticking out, we'll trim that off later.
And you can see that that's going to fit
That's good.
perfectly with the button.
Very nice.
So now we're going to set up our loom. And to do that, we're going to take the 2 longer strands. Wait, which is our center strand? There it is.
The short one.
So the short strand is your center strand.
Yes.
And the longer strands
Go out to the
go
side.
out to the side.
They're all the same length now because it's been folded over.
Exactly.
So it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that's the idea.
Yeah, and what we're going to do is fold a piece of felt over our loop, and that's just so we don't kind of mess up our little
This is
loop.
important, especially if you're using leather. Leather will get an impression on it from the clip.
It totally will. And now I'm just going to clip that under my clipboard. You see our little knots there, and now it's nice and secure.
Exactly. So now we need to put on the beads. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the beads on the center strand, and then we'll use the side strands to do our macrame knots. And we like to just go ahead and feed all the beads on at once. And that way you don't have to stop in the middle of doing your macrame. So you just want to slide the beads on one at a time. We're going to alternate the colors. So this is the champagne color. And then we've got the, what would you call that? Like a crystal?
It's like clear crystal with a little AB finish.
the cut on this bead is like a disco ball.
It's like a disco ball. Exactly.
Really
I was going to say a disco ball.
And that'll give us a lot of shine.
It really sparkles. The light hits all of those facets. So
you can make this with beads that are pave, meaning they have little rhinestones or crystals all over them. That's really pretty.
You could do it with big pearls if you want.
Yes. We do think it works better with round beads.
For sure.
If they're flat, or the flat ones, they want to flip over. And
yeah. And if they're too much of a rondel, sort of flat donut-y shape, the knots don't sit right around them. So we like the round bead for that reason.
I think the round bead is cute for this. And you can use smaller beads, but the as your beads are smaller, more of your bracelet will be the knots and more of the cording will show. And we think it makes a better balance to use a little bit bigger beads.
You also might need more of the small beads. If you,
for
go
sure.
small, you'll have to add to the length.
Yeah.
If you're having any trouble sliding your beads on, you can give the end of your cord a nice new cut.
That's
with your scissors. Yeah, because it can get a little bit frayed.
Yeah. So those are our beads all fed on. And then I'm just going to slide down here to the bottom, and I'm going to use another piece of felt and one of the other binder clips here. We really only need one binder clip because the clipboard has a clip at the top. But if you're working on just a regular board, you'd use the 2 binder clips.
Exactly.
So now we've got this set up here with our center strand. We've got our beads. The beads are going to slide to the bottom, so we can just work on one bead at a time. And now we're ready to start tying our macrame knots.
Now that our loom is all set up, we're ready to start our macrame.
So to macrame the Shambala bracelet, you want to start by sliding up the first bead, and then you're going to do your first knot. And we're going to do a lot of these, but this is the first one. We're going to do this over and over. We're going to make the number 4 out of the left side cord. And then we're going to take the right side cord. We're going to go over the tail of the 4. You see that's like a number 4. We're going to go over the tail. Then we're going to go under the crisscross. This is the crisscross. And then we're going to go out through the center of the 4. And we're going to pull that all the way up close to the bead.
There's your first knot.
That's your first knot. For the next knot, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to make a backwards 4 on this side. See, this really should be sharper to be a 4.
Yeah.
That's our backwards 4.
That's the idea.
That's the idea. We're going to take the left side. We're going to go over the tail, under the crisscross, out through the center of the 4. And we're going to pull that nice and tight. That's our little macrame knot that's going to go between our beads.
It makes a really pretty little knot.
So we slide up the next bead and we're going to do it again. So I'm going to go 4, over, under, and out.
It helps to remember the number 4 because that'll keep you starting on the same side every time.
Yes. So
then, this one's the backwards 4.
Yeah, backwards 4 is second. We go over this tail, under this crisscross, out through the center of the backwards 4. That's our second knot. Slide up a bead. We're going to do the same thing again. 4, over, under, out. Pull it tight. Backwards 4, over, under, crisscross, out through the center.
You get really fast at this once you get in a groove, that's for sure.
Slide up your bead. I almost didn't slide up my
Don't
bead.
forget to slide up.
You do 2 4s and then you slide up your bead. That was the left side, so now I'm going to do the right side.
There you go. You can kind of see the knots happening as she's pulling, so you can really get the idea of how this works.
And you can see why it's important to have a little bit of grip to your cording, because you try to make these knots with something silky, the knots just kind of come loose. They don't tighten up like this. This one tightens up and stays tight.
It's also, you can see why you want to work on a loom. I mean, it really keeps everything in place so that you can work around this center cord and it's pulled nice and tight. And
you have 2 hands free.
Exactly.
To do your knotting. I'm going to slide this up a little bit so you can see where I'm working.
This is a great project to do with kids. You can
Oh,
set
yeah.
up the looms for them depending on their age and just get them going. I've seen people use the lid to a shoebox as
Yes.
their loom instead of a clipboard, and in that case you would use 2 binder clips.
Yeah.
This is also great activity for girls' night because you can have cocktails and
You can still do it.
you can still do it.
It's nothing dangerous.
No.
You don't have a lot of like torch.
No
torch
deadly
soldering or
mistakes,
something.
exactly. Yeah, no mosaic tile breaking or anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can see it goes together pretty quickly here.
Nice. You can really play with the patterns too. You could do it with all the same bead. You could go back and forth with the 2 beads like we're doing. You could do an ombre
Oh, wait,
look.
did I do 3 there? I think I did 3. Did you see that?
I
Slide up my
didn't, but
bead.
that's great to see.
But I can tell that I did 3 because I'm back on the wrong side and there's 3 lines in here instead of 2 for my knots.
See, luckily, it's very easy to just pull your knot out
Yes.
and fix any mistakes. Even if you realized it once you're done, you can just pull the last few
Yes.
knots out.
So see, I did a 4 on the left, I did a 4 on the right, and then because we were chatting, I did another 4 on the left, but I forgot to slide up my bead. So I just undid that one. No big deal.
That's a good mistake to make. Good for you to see because
Yes.
it's very easy to fix.
So you really only want 2, a 4 on the left and then a 4 on the right.
Perfect.
And then slide up that bead, left,
Very
and
nice.
right. Let me slide this up again. Last bead,
Almost done.
and this is the 4 on the left, getting smaller. Make sure, whoops, make sure you go over, even though that tail is short on this side.
You can hold
Over,
it down.
under, and out.
There you go. Good.
And then this is our last one. 4 on the wrong side, over, under my little crisscross.
I'll hold that for you. Whoops.
I got it.
It slid. There you go.
And out through the center of that 4.
Terrific.
Now we have all our beads on there. We have all our knots in the center. And then we'll show you how to finish the end. Now we're ready to put our final closure onto the bracelet.
To do that, we're going to start by taking our bracelet off the clipboard. That's just so we can manage it a little bit better. So I'm going to pull it off the clipboard. I'm going to hand that to you.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so we've got our bracelet here. And what we're going to do is we're going to tie a knot here, just like we did on this end. That's sort of so the ends match.
Yeah.
It's also going to hold the button on. So I'm taking all 3 ends here. And I'm going to do the same knot I did the first time, which is just a basic overhand knot like this. You'll see
Just
the
make
knot
sure you
in a
get all
second.
3.
Yeah, there's 1, 2. Where's my third? There it
There's
is.
your third one.
3. And then I'm going to tighten it so that it's really close to that little knot that we have up there by our bead.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's great.
Now it matches that other end. Now we're going to take one of the strands. I'm going to try and find the center strand
I
just
think
for
it's
fun.
the long one.
Yeah. And I'm going to feed on my button. And this is why it's important to make sure that your cord will fit through your buttonhole. Some of these vintage buttons have a glass backing and they're really tight.
Yes.
So see, that slid on there. You can see it slid onto the middle one. And now I'm just going to do the same knot all over again.
It's an overhand. Just a simple knot.
Simple knot.
It looks nice though.
Yeah, it looks tidy and it gets all of your ends together and
Yeah.
it's easy to tighten. Looks more complicated than it is,
Yes.
but it's because we've got all these ends here. And now I'm just going to tighten that same way as before, and I'm going to flip it over so you can see it there. So we've got our knot that we had, that we started with. We added a knot, slid on the button, and there's our final knot.
And now, let me find the scissors. Got 'em. And now we can trim the back of this. You can leave these ends if you want. You can put little beads on these and make a little dangle out of it. That's cute. We've seen that done before. But for this one, we just make it nice and clean. So we're just going to trim the ends close to the knot. That gets hidden underneath your button.
That's great.
And then you remember we had the center strand here was hanging out in our loop. We'll just trim that one too. And if you want, you can add a little touch of jeweler's glue
That's a good idea.
to the end just to secure your knots if you're worried about them. But they're probably fine. And there's our bracelet. Let me put that on you. So you can see how to close it. I've got the button here and I put the loop over the button. And then there's the Shambala bracelet. The Shambala bracelet turned out so pretty. And didn't it go together fast?
It really did. If you have any questions while you're working on your Shambala bracelet, go ahead and leave us a comment and we'll reply. Happy crafting!